We now return to the fifth quarter draft preview special with Matt Z and Mark Daniels.
So 29th this year. Best fit for the Packers at 29. Guys, got any ideas?
Well, my position on the draft, I love draft day. Like, I think Michael and I are kind of cut from the same writing cloth a little bit. We love stories and storytelling.
Yes.
And I love getting to tell new stories. Now, sometimes you get a conference call like Donnell Washington, whose dogs are barking in the backbackground. You can't hear a word he says. Makes it hard to tell a story.
Whose agent cut in last year? Was that last
Sorry,
year?
guys, he's got to go.
Yeah, Kenny Clark. Yeah. He's got his grandmother's here. Come on. Cut him loose.
So I love that. I can't stand the build-up. Like, I don't want to hear what Todd McShay's 8.0 mock draft says, but the more I read Bob McGinn's running back breakdown, the more I think about Joe Mixon and the fact that he came here for a visit, which tells you that he was, at least at that point, still on the Packers board. I think about the need that they potentially have there. I think about the theory that, this is a place where maybe he can further rehabilitate his image.
Oh, but Jason, we are in such a sensitive society now.
We are. He's gonna play somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And the only thing I would say is that historically, Ted Thompson's quote-unquote character risks have been largely with guys who had addiction issues, right? He did it with Corin Robinson. Right. He brought in the tight end from Oregon, Colt Laerla. Yeah. Both of those guys, and I don't know what the reason is for it, but I think that's a different thing than maybe what we're talking about with Joe Mixon.
Domestic violence case. Michael did a big piece on the guy we try to get on the show for 3 weeks, and that's TJ Watt. The Badger, edge rusher. A lot of folks, I've seen a lot of mocks that say he could be there.
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that fits a need. His style of play certainly mirrors what Clay Matthews did when he was at his best. It's a guy that, of course, the Packers would have been very familiar with. The one thing that I think is going to drive this first round, and it'll influence the Packers even though they have no need at this position at all, is when the quarterbacks are taken. Because this is not a great group of quarterbacks, but if somebody panics early and takes a quarterback much earlier than anticipated, maybe it's somebody in the exactly.
Yeah,
maybe it's in the top 5 or top 4. That's just going to accelerate the other teams that need quarterbacks. And then all of a sudden, these better players that would have been gone are going to cycle down to the Packers. And so what I think that is going to happen is they're going to be sitting there at 29, and there's going to be guys at positions they might not need but are darn good football players. And that's going to really test Ted Thompson's decision-making.
What if it goes the other way, though? I mean, you brought up the 2007 draft when they stayed pat at 16. Remember, in 2007, the Browns desperately wanted to take Brady Quinn. And so the Packers passed up an opportunity to accumulate more picks because they had to have Justin Harrell. Turned out to be a mistake. But what if those quarterbacks don't go as early and they start to fall down? And now suddenly you've got kind of like Minnesota with Teddy Bridgewater a couple of years ago calling John Schneider and wanting to get into that first round to take your quarterback toward the bottom of it. You have 5 years to control them instead of 4 if they go later. Dak Prescott obviously having success as a 4th-round pick. I don't know how that influences opinion, but maybe they get some calls, and for the first time since 2008, they move back instead of staying put.
I was going to ask you, Jordy Nelson's trade. Packers were late first round, and they dealt down and out of round 1. High second round, Jordy Nelson.
And got the guy they wanted anyway.
And has proven, no question, to be first round worthy.
Yeah, and we've seen it all with Ted Thompson. He's traded out of the first. He's made a pick in the first and traded back into the first to make another pick right away. He's never taken a running back. I would doubt he's going to do it this year in the first round, but the draft day is a lot of fun. I'm like Jason. I don't like all the mock drafts and all the build up to it because how often is it ever right? I mean, as a fan, it's fun to think about all of these guys in your uniforms, but let's be honest, no one really knows. And Thompson has even said, even on draft day, he goes, I have maybe 3 guys that I know that I want to take. There's usually not a lot of scrambling. He said for him, especially with this nighttime, primetime stuff, they're dealing through rumors that other teams are putting out to try to get you off of players you like. I mean, it's like behind the scenes.
Bridge of spies.
Yeah. So I think those kind of things are the fun stuff on draft day. So you really never know who's still going to be there, especially that late in the first.
Ted says he has a couple of, usually he has one guy. That's his guy for at number 29. But I think you might be right, Michael. There's going to be, I think, this year, 2 or 3 names minimum that he's going to suddenly have to sit down and really think long and hard about. And he has gone away from positions of need. Seems to me they needed a whole lot more than a QB in 2005.
That's better though than being. I love the Ron Wolf story of the '96 draft where they're on the phone with Ray Lewis,
Right.
and he's convinced he's going to be a Packer, and then the Ravens take him, and then Ron Wolf has to come out and tell everybody how thrilled they are to get John Michaels when he admits that he totally panicked. And so it'll be interesting to see. I always love when they're in a position, again, from a storyteller and from the perspective that Michael and I have, of them being forced to make calls, make decisions, and having tough decisions to make. And they could have one of those at the bottom of the first round.
And they'll be making plenty of them. 8 picks overall in the 7 rounds on the weekend.